Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest is Chief Georgann Morriseau with the Fort William First Nation. So, Georgann, I'm really interested in community development, and I have a background in construction as well.
Oh, good.
And I wish you were around when I was building my house. Because I was 20 years old, building my house, outside of Thunder Bay, and it was a wonderful experience. I was creating something that was mine and it was my future, but I didn't know too much about what I was doing.
Right.
So the quality piece that you had just talked about really wasn't there, and so the last 45 years I've been trying to accommodate that, that lower quality thing.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that? How do you do that in terms of, for me it was just, me and my family, but you're dealing with a lot of folks and you got these different pressures on there. How do you pull that off?
Well, it's not easy. Like I said before, one thing we have to look at and take into consideration is, one, the capacity within our community. That's not to say we don't have the talent. It's a matter of having the capacity to be able to live up to a certain standard that the community wants to implement. What we've been doing again is really focusing on the training piece, trying to promote training in trades, whether it's building of houses, whether it's contracting, whether it's construction, but having those training models in place that are very comprehensive for our community members. With the socioeconomic issues that challenge many of our First Nation communities, and without getting too much into that because it's a very broad topic, those also play a part in some of the challenges that we do face. We do have social issues, we do have other mental health issues that impact our communities, and it's trying to build your people up to overcome some of those. But again, it becomes the responsibility of the First Nation to try and put those resources in place so that they can overcome those barriers and then get on with training and building that capacity that they need to build a house. Because let's face it, anybody can build a structure. We know that. I mean, anybody can hold a hammer and pound a nail. It's how you do it and the quality of workmanship at the end of the day, and whether it's a sustainable structure. Right, so it's trying to get those types of teachings back into the community, and some of our community members who, are rip-raring to go and want to build houses. And you know what, I promote that, and I think it's great to see that because it means your people want to work. But it's, pulling back a little bit and saying, okay, you know what, we're going to teach you how to build a house, and we're going to live up to a higher level of standard so that that house sustains a family for years to come.
Well, let me pull in the involvement of the elders, which you talked about earlier, and I'm just reflecting my own life. The latest addition I put on my house, I'm in my 60s, and I have a whole different point of view than I did when I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference in quality and the speed at which I did it, which is much slower.
Yeah.
So, are the elders involved in this kind of training and sharing that knowledge, or where do you find that or what is their role in whether it's housing or other parts of community development?
I really try to incorporate our elders into as much as possible. I personally have a core group of elders that I sit with once in a while, and whether it's to bounce ideas off of, whether it's to receive feedback, or just please listen to me and let me just vent for a bit. You need that. You need that outlet. And what better people to go to than those who have lived a long life and have experienced a heck of a lot more than me. So I really acknowledge and I honor that system. Being raised by my grandmother, I've kind of grown up with this connection with a lot of our older people. And so I see the value in having their beyond, it's not even just about input, but having them part of the process and part of community development, because they've been there a lot longer than us. They know what works, they know what doesn't work. So sometimes it's a matter of honing back and just listening to what they have to say and taking their word and say, you know what, let's listen to what you have to say, and let's maybe take that as a teaching. So I do incorporate our elders as much as possible. I believe they should be a part of every decision-making process just as much as I believe that young people should be. Because we often talk about the balance of between old and new, And you really can't figure out that balance if you don't put them together and really try to work with both groups and see how we can meet in the middle. So yeah, I do like to incorporate our elders in all that we do.
Well, for me, it's a question for all of our society. I see that we've relied more and more on experts, and so a lot of us aren't experts, even though we've lived a long life and know quite a bit. And so, our seniors, our elders in our community, oftentimes don't have the opportunity to really contribute to the betterment of all our communities. So I'm all ears about how do you really do that? How do you really engage them? Do you have a structure? Is there like advisory committees, or is it, a custom that you go talk to the elders, kind of like what you're doing personally, but when you go beyond the personal to the organization, how does that work?
And again, it's a structure that we're working on. I mean, it's something that's been in the works, and as I stated earlier in my comments about having an elders facility, well, it's more than just having a facility. It's about providing the elders with some kind of pride and ownership in something for themselves, and being able to take care of our own. Right? So with our elders, that's why we're trying to really promote that and get them involved at more of the community level, as opposed to, smaller venues. I really want to pull them into a lot of the bigger decision making within the community, because I think it's fair to say that we do often talk about how much we honor and value our elders, and I think we do. It's just how do we demonstrate that? And I think that's where I know I can work on a little and improve on a little bit more, is how do I demonstrate my value in our elders when I'm moving forward and when I'm trying to implement some kind of community initiative or plan or development. It's what can I draw? What strengths and experience can I draw from these, from a lot of our older people?
I just earlier today was at a meeting at our local credit union, and we're doing a audit of our social responsibility, our social accountability. And as I look, I kind of go, geez, almost everybody around the table has gray hair. And there's value there, but then you need to kind of look into the future, and you need the young people to be involved, but also that perspective, because their world is different than ours. I'd like to explore that a little bit with you too. Now, how do you involve the youth? And we're just kind of coming up to a break, so I'll just say we'll come back in just a few seconds, or a few minutes, I guess, to just explore more now how can we, or how you are involving the young people in that community building as well.
Absolutely.
Hang on, we'll be right back.